She's passionate about helping you become the best mama you can be and is pulling back the curtain on expert advice for every area of our lives, from eating for wellness, the best advice for littles, fashion and style, and everything in between. Get ready to get real. This is Not Your Mama's Podcast with your host, Christina Francie.
Welcome back to another episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. My name is Christina, and today we have Emily. Emily Kay is an energetic advisor and founder of Aligned Energetics. In her work, she advises high-performance entrepreneurs to lead with conviction and hire, launch, and scale with complete confidence. She's passionate about helping her clients harness the power of their unique energetic framework to mitigate risk and achieve their financial intentions. She is the host of Live Your Light podcast and the founder and designer of Sundari Swim, an eco-conscious body love swimwear brand. And her mission is to help entrepreneurs build a business that fuels their lifestyle. Wow, Emily, that is so impressive. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Christina. I'm so excited about this podcast for you, and also to watch you really spread your wings and shine in your capacity. It's so exciting to witness.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, you're very impressive yourself, and I would love the audience to get to know you a little bit more about your background. And I'd also love to hear how you balance it all. You know, you're a full-time mom to two little girls. You have two businesses, you have the swimwear, and then you have the Aligned Energetics, you have your podcast. How do you maintain the balance? I know that's something that I'm still trying to work on myself.
Yeah, no, thank you for the question, because I think there's a lot to the word balance. I think that there's a narrative out there that speaks to everything having to be equal. And that's just not the way that the world works. And so when we strive to have everything equal, we actually set ourselves up for disappointment. And so I let that balance idea go a long time ago.
Okay.
And when I let that go, I substituted that word balance for the idea of harmony. How can I actually create harmony in every aspect of my life? How can I feel really good and present in my business, at home with my kids, at home working on my businesses, or, even when I'm just with my husband, how can I create that harmony? And when I operate from that sense and that energy, it becomes harmonious. Everything comes in a way that feels really aligned, versus me trying to strive for balance. You can already feel, just like from me saying this, the difference there and the energetics behind it.
100%. I got chills. I'm like, wow, that is such a better perspective to look at, is the harmony. I mean, that's just so genius to me, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think, thank you. I think so often we try to be like other people. And the moment so let me just back up a second, because I was not on this path for a good 20 years of my life. I was on the path that I thought I was supposed to be on. I was a school teacher, and then I I shifted into medical capital equipment sales for 10 years. And I did everything to the books. I was, I had the two cars, I had, almost like 7 figures, and I was just making so much money, and I felt so empty at the same time. Now, there's nothing wrong with making a lot of money, but there is something wrong if you're making money for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And so one day I realized, like, I needed to actually press the restart button and actually figure out what the heck is going on here. I'm so disconnected from myself, so disconnected from my truth. And that was eating away at me in so many different ways. And I grew up as an athlete, so I was really trained to never give up, to persevere no matter what. And that really served me well in the corporate industry, because my work ethic was unsurpassed. It was always really, really high end and high value. And And that's something that I really pride myself on still to this day. But the other piece to that is like, what am I actually depleting myself from? Am I not being true to my truth, myself, who I'm meant here to be, if I'm going down that path and not honoring what's coming up for me and missing all the signals? Okay. So what happened was there was like this situation of like what I call the perfect storm, where I was forced to pay attention. There were a bunch of different things that happened in my life at the time. And it was my body shut down. It was that moment where I was like, okay, I can't not listen to this anymore.
Yeah.
So I, in that moment, decided to really, I'd been doing some reading and researching and all of that kind of stuff. And I just really fell into this energetics stuff. And up until that point, I probably, I was that person aside the back of the room, like rolling my eyes and saying, oh yeah, sure. Sure. That does not work. Because I was so conditioned to believe that, only the logic, only the sensible, only like the stuff that you can see is real, until I was forced to see otherwise, because of the perfect storm pushed me in a direction where I be open. Okay. And so I just started doing some reading. I went to a weekend immersion retreat where it was called Core Energetics. And I talk about this on my show too, where I moved energy. I moved all this stagnant energy. And I just went into it with an open mind and no expectations. And I came out and I had moved and transformed my personal energy so much that I started witnessing dramatic results immediately. And when I say dramatic results, I'm talking about, I met my husband 2 days later.
Wow.
And today I like pinch myself because I'm like, gosh, I don't even know how I met him and how I calibrated to him, because he is the living, walking truth and example of everything that I teach. Like he is just so tapped in. Call himself deep or spiritual, but that's exactly, he doesn't need to, because he just operates from that place. And so I know without a shadow of a doubt that this guy was at a higher vibration than me. And I needed to work through that energetically in order to match him. And to this day, like that's my number one priority, is managing my energy. And now I teach that. And that's what I do with my clients, is really the intersection of our personal energy and business, because our businesses are just an extension of us. It is a energetic entity on its own and an extension of us as the entrepreneur. So it really has to start with us managing our own personal energy and understanding us in a way that helps us drive it forward. We're creating from a space that feels empowering and aligned for us, so that the result that you receive will match that. And let me just put it into another way, so it makes sense. If we're creating from a place of obligation or scarcity, it's only going to attract that same type of energetic force. So you'll attract clients, or you'll attract negotiations, or you'll attract partners that are all operating from that vibrational status. So it's really about understanding how you can start to operate from your power. And the way that we do that is I help you understand your energetic DNA, is what I call it. Everybody has a recipe of sorts of different gifts and DNA that you are here to provide to be who you are. And it's beautiful that you are so different. Everybody is different and has this different recipe. And what I find problematic is that the way that we are taught and the way we are conditioned at a young age is to fit into a specific box. Totally. And that doesn't work for everybody. It works for some people that box match for, but realistically, like we all have different ways of learning and experiencing and taking in information. And so that is so important when it comes to building out your business. Like the structure, the programs, the marketing, the sales, all of that has to be unique to in alignment with your unique energetic DNA. And so I so often I find people that are really successful when I say successful, like in their own, it's all relative, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I find that they're really successful, but they've reached a place in their business where they're stagnant, where everything has kind of just stopped. They've done everything that they think that they need to do, and they just can't find the solution why they can't grow past 500K or 700K or whatever it is. And they've been stagnant in that space for a while, and they've done everything they could do. And they try, the way that they first try to operate and try to fix the problem is by putting a Band-Aid on it, saying, oh, well, it must be my sales. It must be my sales funnel. It must be my programs. And could be very realistically, it could be. But oftentimes what I'm finding is that it's actually the energetic component beyond that that's powering this in a way that's not actually allowing them to grow. So what I do is I go in and I share what they are energetically. I help them understand that energetic blocks and restrictions are in place within themselves and within the business. And when I help them clear that, and it's insane to see how tremendous their business can take off, and unlocking those pieces of themselves, how it can actually ripple out into every asset of their life. So like their relationships, their health, like all these aspects of them that they didn't even think was related to the business started repairing itself and becoming more aligned as a byproduct.
Can you give an example of how you get in tune with someone's energetic like DNA to help them, become aligned with their business, their life, their motherhood, whatever it is? Like, how do you tap into that person?
Good question. So I use a modality called the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records, I'll just explain it really in layman's terms real quick. We can go so deep on this. We can have a whole episode on this, sister.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about, but explain to the audience.
So the Akashic Records is really an energetic database. It holds every thought, every action, everything that you have done since the day of your soul's incarnation. So that can go beyond your date. It can get beyond this lifetime, right? So like it can be many lifetimes of information. And you can imagine every thought and action, everything that's happened to you from this lifetime and lifetimes before this. It's so much information. So that's why it's really important to be very specific and ethical when I'm going in and reading somebody. So typically what I do is I go and I've been doing this for a number of years, and I've been actually I started out just by doing it to myself and doing it for my friends. And then I saw so many shifts happen really quickly for people that I was like, I can't deny this for other people. And I need to help people specifically in business. Mm-hmm. So basically when I go in, I do what I call energetic research. So every time I'm on the call with somebody, I have done 2-3 hours or even more sometimes, of energetic research, of helping me understand specifically about what block and restriction is in place and what energetically is showing up for you. I'll give you another example. So let's say that one of your energetic gifts is communication. And let's say that at a young age, your older brother scolded you for speaking out because you probably said something really wise and you looked really good in front of your parents, and he got super jealous. Like that's just an example. It's pretty simplistic. And so he scolded you, and it continued to scold you and say, shut up, or whatever he said. So having that as an energetic gift of communication, you've equated speaking your truth to not safe, right? Yeah. So that doesn't feel safe to you. So instead, the brain likes to maintain this state of equanimity. It likes to maintain this ability to be very stable and safe. So you can see how that's conflicting. So your brain is going to tell you not to speak up, when your energy is saying that's actually who you are. That's what you're designed to do. So what happens there is that it creates this block. And the more times that you continue to not speak up, that block gets even greater and greater and greater, meaning you're not operating from your divinity. You're operating from this sheltered, scarred person. So let's say you come to me and that's one of your gifts, and you're running a business now, and you still have this belief and block in place because of what happened so long ago, right? And so you're not seeing your business take off. you're not seeing your business take off, and you're wondering why. Like, I'm doing everything I was told I was supposed to do. I've put this sales model in place. I've put these, I've put these programs in place. It all looks exactly like my mentor told me to do it, and it's still not clicking. Well, that's where this work is really powerful, because I can help remind you of who you are, who you're meant to be, and how you're divinely here to show up. And on top of that, I help you understand how to take different patterns of choice, take different action to shift that vibration and shift into a different place where you're removing those blocks that were not even supposed to be there in the first place. So what happens as a byproduct to you taking that new action is that you receive more vital force energy. You receive this abundance. You start to feel so much better and vital, and you feel really, really confident and secure, which is the opposite of what you thought you would feel if you started speaking out. And so that's what always happens when we go back to our original DNA, when we start operating from that energetic DNA and then creating from that space. It's incredible to see how fast your business can take off and how fast your life can change. And it can happen in an instant if people are ready for it. So that's why I'm so passionate about this work. And I was actually, I was hiding for so many years because I was afraid that people wouldn't receive it well. And so me not sharing this actually was my way of blocking myself.
Exactly.
And so the moment I decided to go fully in and say, oh, no, we're doing this. That's when my business started just skyrocketing. I have a wait list now that people just continue to, like, the retention is crazy. People don't want to get out of the program. So I'm trying to create something else where I can have the ability to reach more people, and people can get in without being on the waiting list. So yeah, if you're part of my Instagram groups or anything like that, make sure to reach out if you're interested in getting in any of this energetic work. I'll have something coming for you in March, and I think a retreat that I'm going to be doing live in Sedona with one of my partners. So it'll be really fun. But yeah,
I can provide all the links below so people can sign up, check you out. I know that, I mean, it sounds amazing. I'm like, I need this, because I know that, like, for me, just even with this podcast, sometimes I feel like I was meant to be a communicator and kind of, be out there, but then I stopped because of, certain things that happened in my life that made me feel like to hide, and not to put myself out there. And, this is me, like, stepping out of my own comfort zone and, trying to push back, like, the negative talk in my head and, like, the little demon that comes out and says, oh no, who do you think you are? You can't do that. Or, you need to, recluse to your safe space and stuff. So, and I feel like a lot of women and men, but, like, we do that to ourselves all the time. We want to feel safe. We're afraid to stand in our power, because, like you said, sometimes the constructs of society make us feel like we have to fit in this box. And with the school, I always felt like, it's like, I'm still struggling. Like, who am I supposed to be? What's my purpose and all this stuff. And it's like the big question mark, because we all just want to, like, feel fulfillment. We all want to feel like just explosion with passion with what we're doing. And sometimes we get lost in trying to find that for ourselves, and we look in the wrong places for the answers. So, I mean, it's really great that you're doing this work to kind of help people and to sharing the gifts and the things that you've learned, because
thank you.
There's not many people. I mean, there are people out there, but not many. I found, like, what you're doing extremely interesting and great. That's why I wanted to have you on this podcast, so you can, explain what your gifts are.
Yeah. And it'd be really interesting to go into your personal record and see, like, what actual, like, what areas of your profile are shining through, and maybe that example that I gave really hit something for you. And so that
the communication
potentially
one?
Why that could be
100%.
why I felt called to give that example. Yeah.
I was like, is she reading me?
Yeah. And so that tends to happen. It's so funny because yeah, it's a lot of times. And whenever I'm in a session, I don't things that a lot of things don't make sense when I say it to myself, but when I say it to the person on the other end, they're like, holy crap, how did she know that? So a lot of times this information really isn't for me. And that's been really hard for me to actually step out of my own way because I've trained myself to be so logic based and very cerebral. But the other side is that it's not for me. So stepping back and giving this information and stepping out of the way rather, so that people can actually feel it and understand like, oh, wow. And I'm not supposed to understand it because it isn't for me. It's not for my ego. It's for you. So allowing my ego to step aside has been really, it's been really hard, but also really rewarding and beautiful to see how it unfolds for the other people out there.
Yeah. And I'm sure rewarding for you, to see who you've helped blossom and break through those barriers that were happening. Yeah, I know I'm learning some stuff from John Maxwell. And no, you're fine. And from John Maxwell. And, part of connecting with people and communicating with people is dropping that ego, and learning to do that because it's not about you. You need to connect to your audience. Like, who is that person that you're trying to connect to? And it's never about you. If you're sitting over here worrying about what people think, what you look like, what do I want? How do I want people to do it my way? It's not about that. You have to look at it from their shoes, and go from their perspective. And,
yeah.
And not everyone's going to be like you. And I do think, and like what you said, dropping the ego is probably one of the hardest things, and not making it about you, because especially in today's society, we make it about ourselves, and how just, with the internet and, the social media and just kind of how the instant gratification things that we have with fast food, fast deliveries, fast everything, we're not even able to take the time to breathe for a second. We're so connected to our technology. If a package is a week to come, it's oh, this is too long, so it's we really do need to take a step back, breathe. And I was talking to someone the other day, which I thought was great, is if something's not working, just take a pause. It's okay to pause and analyze and, go deep within and, take the time. It's not a failure thing. So I totally resonate with everything that you're saying. I think it's so insightful.
Yeah, thank you. And I think another thing is, what really supported me is the mantra of when I slow down, things speed up. And, that can be to take that in and let that land however it for you. But I think for me, at least, I was always go, 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 go. If I don't show up, if I don't do this, if I don't post this, and I don't do that, then business is going to falter. And that's really not the case. If you do something with full intention and do less of the other busy work, think about how much better quality that is. And also when it was just Valentine's Day, and something, I for whatever reason, I just cringe at that holiday because I think it's just so funny, because I would prefer to celebrate love every day instead of just one day, right?
Yeah.
But I think one of the big things is, how can you love yourself enough to give yourself time, to give yourself space to think, to create, to do nothing? Sometimes it means loving yourself enough to not fill the gaps in your calendar. And that's an act of self-love, in my opinion, especially today, seeing how many calendars are going on, and, how many meetings and this and that and this and that. Gift yourself the opportunity to have a moment and see what rises, because within those sacred moments when creativity has the freedom to rise, and it's also within those moments that you get to see yourself again.
Yeah.
But
And get the download.
you can't really do that if you're constantly all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know one thing for me that I need to really work on, and I'm sure a lot of people do, is to just be in the moment, to stay present in the moment, like with your kids, like don't be on your phone, don't be listening to something in your ear. Cause I tend to do that. Like I'm like a multitasker, super busy. It's like, okay, I'm listening to something in my ear and I'm like playing with my kids. And it's like, how present am I even in both things? Like, am I really listening? Am I really with my kids? Like, and it's so hard. And it's just a fast-paced world. And I think you're right. Learning to slow down is something that is hard to do, I think. But the most rewarding thing when you do it, like take the time to meditate, take the time to be with yourself. And I know I need to work on that in my own personal life. It's hard, like taking care of other people. Sometimes you don't have the time to take care of yourself. You fill up your cup last, because you got your kids, your husband, the house work, we're not octopuses, we don't have like 8 arms, like to be able to do everything at once, and we can't like duplicate ourselves. So it's like, whatever you do, you'd have to know that like that task or whatever is going to not get done. And it's like being okay with that, like it's okay for me to take this time to be with myself alone instead of folding the laundry, like that's really not that important. That's just a small example, but.
Right. No, I get it. And, I have 2 kids too. And so it's, I think another big piece there is developing a sense of self-trust, like knowing, like that sense of like knowing that it'll all get done. Like it will get done. You've never proven that it won't, right? It will get done. Mm-hmm. And so when you have that energy of, oh, it's cool, I got this, it'll get done, you start to operate from a place of intentionality versus it being a struggle and really force energy. Mm-hmm. And so it's really like, oh, it'll get done and I'll take care of that. I've never proven to myself that I've never been able to get it not done.
Right.
And so it allows you to be present and really enjoy, because if you are quote unquote trying to be present with your kids, but then you have in the back of your mind, oh God, I'm trying to be present, but I got to do all this stuff. I have to do, I got to do the laundry and I didn't make the dinner. Da, 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 da. How present are you really?
You're not.
So that's why it's really about, okay, I'm going to give myself 20 minutes, and maybe that's way less than what people expect me to give my kids, but I'm going to give them 20 minutes, and that 20 minutes is going to be the best 20 minutes of their day. Mm-hmm. That's in my opinion, it's better to do that than to have this intermittent attention where mama, dad, they're trying to get your attention and you're in one ear and out the other. Like you're literally like listening to a podcast or you're listening to a whatever it is. And then, they're speaking to them, half-ass. It's like, that's not worth it.
Yeah, totally.
And they can feel that. They're exactly so smart. Like they can feel that.
Yeah, they can feel it. They will remember that. And it goes by so fast with them. Like mm-hmm. you're never going to get it back, And I think one of the things that, I don't know, I wouldn't say fearful, but it's like, I just don't want to have regrets, like look back and be like, God, I wish I was able to, be more present with them when they were younger. I don't want to like look back.
It's so funny you say this. I was just on I was speaking on a summit yesterday, and that question came up, is like, what are your regrets? And I'm like, because I do an exercise with my clients called the legacy letter. Mm-hmm. And I'll just give you a little bit of information on that. So basically it's a letter that I wrote. I was speaking at my grandmother's funeral at her memorial, and I was writing out all these incredible things that she had done and who she was as a person. And mm-hmm. it was that none of it was based off of how much money she made or what she'd done and all this stuff. It's just like who she was being and what that made how that translated in her life. And it was like this aha moment. And I was like, wow, like that is incredible. She is incredible. Like, how can I do that for myself? So I started to write from the future me as on my deathbed. What can I do with my life that would create and cultivate that type of sense of being? And so I call it my legacy letter. And that question came up yesterday during the summit. And I can honestly say, without a shadow of a doubt, that I'm not going to have regrets of, I am doing everything in alignment. Everything that I do right now, I'm so proud of, and I feel so good and fueled. And, I'm operating off of 3 hours of sleep because I have a teething baby, and, my other daughter is having night terrors, and like, there's just a lot of stuff going on, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I love it. Like, I'm just like, this is life, And so it's really that experience of being like owning it, and also just being really open to experiencing it all without trying it to make it or force it to be something different than it is. And so I encourage anybody who is here listening or watching to try that legacy letter, write that out and see what comes through for you, because it'll be unique and profound, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, going back to, talking about speaking at your grandmother's funeral, you probably remembered how she made you feel. I think one thing people will always remember is how you made them feel. Did they make you feel good? Did they make you feel safe? Did they make you feel bad about yourself? You will always remember that. And I think that's important to kind of remember. I feel like to write maybe in your legacy letter is, how did I make people feel? Like, was I kind? Was I supportive? Or, was I too harsh? Was too hard on my kids or too harsh on my parents? Whatever it is, like, and I think that's important because the feelings will always stick with you. So,
right.
Yeah.
And that's, I will say, like, that's the number one thing that I hear from people, is that whenever they work with me, they feel clear and they feel seen. They have clarity in their next steps of life. Like, everything that I do is really in the energetics, which is like hard for people to grasp because it's in the unseen, right? But I bring it down into the grounded. I bring it into the practical, so it makes sense. So I teach you how to start realigning back to yourself, and how to cultivate that through different action steps. So people feel seen. They feel like I see their soul, because that's my gift. That's my energetic gift, is truth, and being able to see other people and also allow them to see themselves. So it feels really good to hear that feedback from people, because, like you just said, people don't remember what you say; they remember how you made them feel.
Exactly.
And so, yeah.
Well, I have 4 questions that I ask all my guests at the end of each show. So the first question is, who and what inspires you?
Gosh, that's so funny, because, like, if you would have asked me that like 2 years ago, it would have been so different. I would say my husband and my kids, if I can answer it that way.
Of course, you can answer it any way you want. There's no rules.
Yeah. I think, the kids inspire me to just appreciate the zest for the small things in life, like seeing an airplane fly overhead, or like looking at a billboard. My daughter gets so excited, like those little things that we take for granted. And it's just like, oh my gosh, everything in life sparkles for them. So it's really cool.
I know. Yeah. It's
and then my husband's like the living, walking example of what I teach. And so he is just this constant reminder that it doesn't have to look spiritual to be spiritual, or it doesn't have to be, one way to be classified as a very, stable or a woken up human. Like, he is so on point. So he keeps me in my place, because I always want to be at his level, and really we work really well with each other energetically.
That's good. Yeah. And I'm sure, you always need the support, especially, being an entrepreneur, mother of his children. Like, it's good to have someone on the same level as you, because I know it makes it a lot difficult when they're not. Okay.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, yeah, especially in the entrepreneurial world, like having somebody that's like your biggest cheerleader is so powerful. And he's that for me. He's just like, oh yeah, what are you going to do now? Like, how are you going to bring on this project? How are you doing with this? And so like, I know that a lot of that success could be intimidating for others. And I only say that because I know that from previous relationships where it's been really tumultuous because of my drive and my ambition. And so I'm really grateful that he's supportive.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so second question is, what is something you wished you knew when you were younger?
I think it would be that it doesn't have to look the same as everybody else in order for it to be right.
Good answer.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Being yourself and creating from your truth is really the most powerful thing that's done numbers for myself and for my career.
Perfect. Okay. Number 3 is, what's the essential part of your daily routine?
I love visualizing my day. So I do that at the end of the day for the next day to come. So I typically have really, you've witnessed this. I have a lot of meetings every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to visualize how it would be a success from all angles. How can I go at this with the energy of love, with creation, with joy? And how can I create freedom out of that? So my big word this year is freedom, and how I want to embody and create more freedom for myself and for my family. And freedom is, it's subjective. It's, it can mean something so different for others. For me, freedom means the ability to choose who I connect with, who I arrange, how I spend my day and all that kind of stuff. So when I visualize my day at the end of each day for the next day, it allows me to really feel grounded and powerful.
Totally. And the last question is, best advice you've ever received?
I don't know if it's what I received. It's what I kind of give. Get your energy in check, manage your energy, and everything else will follow.
Yeah, that's great advice. All right, Emily. Well, it was so lovely to have you on and so informative. Are there any last words that you want to say before we say goodbye?
If any of this landed or hit really deeply for you, feel free to check out my website. On my website, you'll have a little quiz that pops up, which is supporting you in understanding your energetic superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Take that quiz and see what comes through for you, because you might get some clarity on how to take your next steps. And then, get on my email list, because I always send out free mini sessions and other really important things that can help really catapult your life and your business. So I'm excited to meet you all. Introduce yourself on Instagram to me. My handle is @it's Emily K. Thomas. And thank you so much, Christina, for having me. It's so great to connect with you again.
I know. It's so nice to have you on, and all of Emily's information will be down below in the description box. So it'll be easy for you to find. And thank you again for listening on another episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.